At the end of 2 full days, 3 of my 8 siblings and I filled 2 30-foot long dumpsters with garbage from the house that we all grew up in. My sister, the oldest of all of the 8 kids, was being evicted, and she had been technically squatting in the house we grew up in for the last 3+ years, ever since my dad passed away. We all came together knowing we had to help her out, because if she were able to get out by Monday morning, and if the house were in like a broom-swept condition, she would get cash for keys. And she could start a whole new life with her 12-year-old son in affordable housing a few towns over. So we were called to action, a couple siblings and I. We showed up 2 full days. We got real dirty, real nasty, real grimy, cleaning up this house we grew up in. And when we grew up there as 8 kids in one small beat-up farmhouse, it was chaotic and it was dirty, but it was sort of like a beautiful disaster. And there was something that happened when my father left and then my mother moved away a year and a half ago. My sister collects things and sort of just started to gain height. And the entire house just sort of filled with garbage and plastic and even dead things. I found dead mice. And so it was really disgusting. And I remember thinking, like, as we were cleaning it, 2 full days of just intense cleaning and dumping, I didn't feel sad and I didn't feel, uncomfortable, and I didn't feel oddly connected to this sort of disgusting space. I thought I was nervous that I'd go home and I'd feel sad about returning to this sort of awful place, a place that we had had so many, challenges as kids, so many kids growing up together. But I had no connection. I'd already sort of disconnected from all of it. I'd sort of grown away from it, luckily, as an adult. There was that one thing that sort of brought me back. And it was toward the end of the second day, I walked by where the phone used to be. There's this tall brick chimney, and there was this sort of crumbling drywall in front of it, and it had every phone number from everyone in my family's friends and important numbers, all written in different calligraphy, all around where the phone used to be. There's no phone there now. And it gave me pause, and I thought, this is kind of interesting. And I took out my phone, which is, in no way tethered in any way. It's an iPhone, it's got camera ability, and I'm taking photos of the phone numbers. And halfway through the photo shoot that I'm participating in, I realized I don't need to take photos of this. I remember all the numbers, because we had to, remember? We had to remember Danny's number was 5165, and Avra was 7158, and Sean was 9235. And we could dial only 4 numbers back then. Remember that? Back in the late 80s. And so I stopped taking photos, and I realized, that phone that we used when we were kids, that was my way out in this sort of chaotic, hard time as a child growing up. I could just pick up the phone and I could just reach out and talk to friends that were in sort of calmer, more exciting situations. I could talk to Adrienne Pucko, my first high school crush, for 8 straight hours on that phone. And it was magical. And the only thing longer than that 8-hour conversation were her curly, curly hairs. She was gorgeous. But those were the sort of memories I remembered. There's this positive things of, there was something positive in this house, and it was the thing that got me out of it. And it was that phone that we constantly used to reach out to friends and family. And, to millennials in the audience, a landline is like a microwave with an umbilical cord attached to it. And ours was like, originally maybe 3 feet, but eventually became like that 25-foot long, like clusterfuck of a Bob Marley dreadlock. It was just like crazily wound and wound and wound. You could go at least 2 or 3 blocks away from the house and still be on the phone. And as we were sort of packing up and finishing up for the weekend, I was almost sad that I wasn't sad that it was all over, because I was okay. It wasn't sad to be there. It wasn't challenging to be there. I'd already disconnected. And all of the things I needed to remember about that house, I remembered. I remembered the phone numbers. It's like my sister was being kicked out of this house, but sort of those memories and those positive, healthy connections, those sort of things could never be evicted from my memory and my heart. Thanks.